Hello friends, I have a short story for you. This is fiction. It's about a little boy really, and it's called Flowers Can Talk. 10-year-old Jack was in trouble at school again. It was a history lesson and Sally French loved history, and sitting in front of Jack she put her hand up and answered so many questions right, and because he was fed up he was calling her swat and teacher's pet. And at last he pulled her hair. Miss Campbell had seen enough. She didn't believe in lines, viewing them as a complete waste of time, so her punishments were most often an essay. Right, Jack Linton. The uncharacteristic sound of her voice surprised her and her pupils. You will write me an essay, 4 sides of A4 paper, and it must be about flowers. The class all laughed. Flowers, miss? Girls' stuff? Come on, miss, football or cars? No, Jack, flowers. And it better be neat, and it had better be on my desk on Monday morning. As they left the classroom, Sally laughed at him and said, Flowers? And he was so full of anger, and that toward a girl who was actually a close friend. Arriving home and looking very down at the mouth, his mother watched him eat his tea, and she was worried about him. She was on her own, and since her father had died the year before, Jack's schoolwork and his behaviour had deteriorated badly. He was much naughtier at home as well. His granddad had been such a loss to him. Flowers, he muttered. Sorry, Jack. Stupid essay about flowers? 4 sides of A4 paper, girl stuff. Oh, is this punishment from Miss Campbell? He nodded. Well then you better do it, my lad. But he looked so sad she put his arms around him and hugged him. Come on, Jack, it'll be okay. Patricia had already tried to link Jack up with another older man, Sean McDade, who worked with her at the hotel. He came in for a few hours and did repair jobs. He'd always been a friend of her father's. In fact, they travelled every year together over to Liverpool to see a live football match at Anfield, going on the ferry and making a really good time of it. But Jack just didn't want to do anything with Sean at all. However, this night Jack's mum had phoned him and told him about Jack and asked him for help. Sean was a kind man and he loved children. Flowers, you say? Oh, I could help him with that. Saturday morning came and Patricia, Jack's mum, had told Jack the night before that he'd have to go and spend the day with Sean because she was going to Belfast shopping all day. She knew that he wouldn't want to do that. Reluctantly, when Sean arrived, Jack went out to the car. He was surprised that they didn't go to Sean's Dungiven home, but instead drove out to Ness Wood. When Sean got out of the car, Jack reluctantly follows. The wood would be great with his friends, but it was going to be so boring with Sean, he thought. As they entered the wood, Sean said, So you have an essay to write about flowers, eh? Well, I can help you with that. What do you know about flowers? You know all about football and Guinness, and that's it. There's no need for you to be rude, Jack. You don't know what I know about. Grandad said I should always speak my mind like he did. Aye, and he did that, it's true. But he always did it with grace, kindness and respect. He was never rude unless someone was ignorant to him first. But flowers are girl stuff. Oh no, they're not. And if you listen to them, they can talk. That's stupid. The sunlight on the trees, blowing in the June breeze, was creating flashes of dappled brightness on the boy's face. So you don't think flowers can talk? Of course not. They can't speak. Oh, but they can. But not with words, but with signs. Information that if we know the language, we can learn from them just as easily as you learn from Maggie Campbell at that school of yours. What do you mean? They were now entering the woods. Well, you see those white flowers there? Have you seen them before? Aye. Where? Along the side of the road. That's right. They're called cow parsley and they grow in fields and along the roads. They're not really a forest flower. So they're telling us something, because there's a lot of them just here. Do you know what it is they're telling us? The boy shook his head, shrugged his shoulders. Well, they're telling us that this part of the wood wasn't always woodland, but once it was a field, and these are left over from then. And if you look at the trees here, you can see they're not so old, are they? They moved on down the path. Now, Jack, do you see there, those flowers just starting to come out? They're rosebay willow herb, and in a couple of weeks there'll be a blaze of colour here. But they're also talking to us. They only take to seed properly on disturbed ground. Also, they're biannuals, which means the seeds take 2 years to produce flowers of their own. So 2 years ago, something disturbed the ground there. Now, what do you think it was? Jack looked around. Well, there are some tractor tire marks here, and some old tree stumps pushed over there. So did they cut some trees down 2 years ago? Well done! And when they pulled the stamps out, they disturbed the ground, and hundreds of rosebay willow herb seeds that had blown here in the past, in the wind, or had blown here 2 years ago, found a good home and started to grow. They're also called fireweed because they grow where there's a fire too. After the fire's gone, they'll grow on that land. But this time it's because those tree stumps were disturbed. And you got it right, Jack. You understood what the flowers were saying. Jack was actually beginning to enjoy this. It was like being detectives. Sean needed a rest, and they sat on an old tree trunk by a clearing. What do you see all over this side of the clearing, Jack? Stinging nettles? Yes. Now they have unusual flowers, but they're talking to us as well. Have you heard of phosphate? No. But you know what an atom is? Yes. Well, phosphate is made of a phosphorus atom surrounded by 4 oxygen atoms. Jack's eyes lit up. Imagine Sean knowing about atoms. Sean pointed at the nettles. They are very greedy for phosphate, so there must be a lot of it over there. And do you know what that means? Jack hadn't a clue, of course. Well, it probably means that there was once a cattle shed or a rubbish tip over there. Can you see it? Jack shook his head. We can't see it, but we know it was there because the stinging nettles are telling us about it now. Sean continued as they walked through the trees to share gems from the plants around the forest. But he saved his favourite to the last. He stopped and pointed to a valley or glen falling away from the footpath. Do you see those? They're elders. And it's probable that there are badgers living down here, down in that glen. They like the fruits, and it's true that the seeds pass right through them. Now, badgers are clean kind of creatures, and they have latrines or toilets, pits that they use to go to the toilet. The seeds are there because they pass through them, and then they grow up into elders. Also, do you notice there's not much in the way of other shrubs or trees around here, is there? That means there's probably rabbits as well. Because rabbits nibble away at everything. All the other plants, as they come up, the rabbits nibble them. But they don't like the taste of the elders, so they leave them alone. So you see, the very fact that these elders here tells us that probably these badgers and probably these rabbits too. Jack was amazed. At home the next day he wrote his essay. He called it Flowers Can Talk. It began, sometimes boys think flowers are boring, but they do not realise that flowers can talk. Miss Campbell was stunned by the style and skill in the writing, and also the information, but best of all was his joyful enthusiasm when he was asked to read it to the class. Miss Campbell got him to enter it in a writing competition in Derry, and he won first prize for his age group. Sally French was so proud of her friend. So was Jack's mum. But she was stunned at the change in Jack as well. In the school holidays he was with Sean often, and one night, one beautiful moonlit night, they went back to Ness Wood and they sat in the bushes, and the two of them were able to confirm that yes indeed there were badgers and rabbits in that glen, and they also saw some deer and a glimpse they thought of a fox. Also, by the time they came home that day, they were planning a trip to Liverpool to go and see a football match in the new season. The flowers had talked to Jack, and they told him that life was good, and it was fine to be happy and go on ahead and enjoy it. Well, just a little story, that's all it is, just a story made up. But it does kind of make you think, doesn't it, sometimes, if children are changing, what's the cause, what's the reason? Can we do anything to help them? Sometimes it's those of us who don't have children who can join in and encourage and help the children of others, isn't it? Thanks for listening. Nice to talk to you, my friends. Bye bye for now. Bye.